Hey, I'm your humble host, phizzed Music, and this right here is Urban Politics. Want to thank you all for liking and subscribing as you do. Please, as soon as you have a chance, take your little cell phone over to YouTube, like and subscribe. Phizzed Music, Urban Politics. But without further ado, I want to jump right into it like a car and drive because there's all types of tasty and delicious politics to sink our teeth into. Number one, ladies and gentlemen, I'm wearing my jazzy suit because we're talking about some jazzy things today, right? We're talking about the DNC. You know what I'm saying? The National Democratic Convention or the Democratic National Convention. It was amazing. There was a lot of people there, a lot of stuff going on. It was basically off the hook. They were doing the split screen between the RNC and the DNC, and the DNC, as the kids would say, was lit, and the RNC was not. The RNC was very much a somber funeral like occasion. Gave off real tough funeral energy. The DNC wasn't nothing but a party. That party is alive over there, right? Because there's been new breath breathed into it, so to speak, right? So that's what's going on. It was 4 days, Monday through Thursday. With the first day, Joe Biden basically gave a farewell speech, basically saying, I've given you everything, America, and I'm falling back and letting Kamala do her thing. And they were saying, "Thank you, Joe. We appreciate you making the sacrifice that you've made, probably saving democracy." You know what I'm saying? So that's what's up. That was cool. Little John was there. Turn down for what? Had it going the nuts. You know what I'm saying? I think that might have been the night when we were actually giving Kamala the nomination, and then they gave Mr. Walls the vice president nomination. So that's huge. Super loud and exciting. Like I said, versus the RNC, which was boring and somber. It was a snooze fest. And you know what I'm saying? They were trying to dress it up on Fox as, yes, the Republicans were dignified and, keeping with the ways of history and did it in a distinct and dignified manner. Nah, it was boring and nobody's really happy on that side at all because y'all still got the same old lame standard bearer that you're going to lose with. And on the DNC, they got a new, young, fresh standard bearer who they're going to win with. So it is what it is, right? It was really no, covering that up. So there's that. Moving on. Let's talk about Biden. And it's interesting that he would talk about this as he's leaving, but this is what these guys always want to do. They always want to say something that needed to be said or talk about something that needed to be talked about or push legislation that should have been pushed when they had their jobs, but then when they leave and they're like, well, this is a good time to sneak it in there because it's needed, but I didn't necessarily want to be the one to put it out there because I was trying to save my political butt like everybody else. So anyway, Joe Biden floats the idea of term limits for Supreme Court justices. That is a great idea. Right now, we have a Supreme Court that is heavy on the conservative side, right? So, like I talked about it, that's probably, I'm praying that isn't what happens this election, but it definitely could. I was even reading now how they were saying that a vote for Jill Stein, and Jill Stein is the environmental party, they said a vote for Jill Stein is a vote for Trump. I never even thought about that. Do I agree with that? I'm not sure I agree with that because I think that enough people will either vote Democrat or Republican to where those people who are going to vote for the environmental party it just isn't going to matter. I don't think anyway. But I'm not a pollster or a political analyst all like that. But just what I'm saying, what I've seen in past elections. I don't think it'll make that big a deal. I don't think it's going to steal that many votes from the Democratic Party because it could also steal votes from the Republican Party. Because I could also see a lot of, especially younger Republicans, also being environmentalists and maybe voting for Jill Stein and not voting for Trump and the Republican Party. So you never know about that, right? But it is what it is. So people are, kind of scared at that because what happens, right? You know what I'm saying? We have an election that's close, it's contested, it goes to the Supreme Court. We have a Supreme Court that is heavy on the conservative side. Boom, Trump is president. It could happen. It happened with George Bush Jr., right? Garbage like that happens in this country all the time, and there are some people who are betting on that, right? And they know that if that decision falls in the hands of the Supreme Court that we have right now, they're going to give it to Trump. So Biden's talking about term limits for these guys. That's a good idea. So what would that look like? Maybe a Supreme Court justice does 2 terms. You know what I'm saying? Like a congressman or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Maybe 4 years, and then maybe they run again or something and have to get appointed for another 4 years. Or maybe they only do 4 years and then they're out of there. But the way it is now, where those people get those appointments and they sit on that bench until they grow old and die, we need to get rid of that. That needs to go because that's lame. And then you end up with the problem, like I said, that we have with the court now. You know what I'm saying? It's conservative heavy, and I guess that wouldn't be so bad. But we got some people in there that's going to be around for a long time. The court, the way it is now, is going to be like this for a long time. We don't need it to be like that. We need it to be more fluency and more change within that institution. Yeah, I agree. So I like that. It's interesting, like I said, that Biden would bring that up on his way out the door, but I hope they keep that going. I hope that Kamala and Mr. Walz keep that talk going, because we definitely need term limits for our congressmen and women. I know they don't want to hear that. We need term limits for our congressmen and women, and we need term limits for our Supreme Court justices. Moving on, let's talk about Trumpy boy. Now, I had said this, and I've probably been saying it ad nauseum, since it's come up or whatever, but people continue to ask me, if Trump continues to drop in the polls, do you think that he will drop out before losing to Kamala? Of course he will. That man is not going to lose to a woman. He's not going to lose to a black woman. He's not going to lose to a black woman and a Christian. Oh, my Lord. He's not going to lose. Excuse me. He's not going to lose to a black woman and a conservative white guy. He can't stomach that. So he's gonna drop out. Of course he's gonna talk about how it's rigged and all that, because he's poised to lose by a landslide, and he knows that. So of course he's gonna go on and on and on about how it's rigged and the vote has been tampered with, and election this and election that, election fraud this, election fraud that. And then I'm thinking he might step down. We'd actually be real lucky if he did. If Trump just got real tired of the rigmarole, tired of how bad he's looking in the polls, tired of his side telling him he needs to grow up and stop talking about how he looks better than Kamala, which is just ridiculous. But stop doing stupid stuff like that. If he gets sick of that, he gets fed up, he says, oh well, and he steps down and he falls back. Good thing about that is Trump's going, right? Bad thing is maybe they find a better candidate than Trump. Maybe they throw a Nikki Haley up there. Maybe they throw somebody else up there who could give Kamala a run for her money. Even though we're so close to election right now, it's like, but I mean, anything could happen. Anything could happen, as we've seen in this election. So if that happened, that would be, better, just because we wouldn't have to deal with all this election fraud garbage and then going to the Supreme Court and us dealing with that again. But that probably won't happen, because once again, Trump is hedging his bet on that. He already knows if he runs around here and he yells election fraud, rigged votes, and then there are people right now poised in states to make the vote look hokey, to do little stuff to cast doubt on the vote, and then it ends up in the Supreme Court hands. He knows that his friends over there in the Supreme Court are going to give him the election. So let's pray that doesn't happen, but there's a lot of people who are looking down the road and like that's something that definitely could happen. So there's that. Welcome to the American election process. Moving on. A question that you always ask or always hear asked of black candidates, right? What has such and such done for the black community? People came to Barack Obama like that all the time. What have you done for black people? What has he done for black people? Even right now, they say Barack Obama was the worst president for black people ever. You hear black people say that all the time, which is the stupidest thing you ever heard in your life. But there's plenty of black brothers and sisters who run around out there talking about how Barack Obama was the worst president on record and Barack Obama didn't do anything for black people. People say that to me all the time, and I was like, well, first of all, he's the American president. He happens to be a black American, but he's not the black American president. He's the American president. So the things he does has to help what? All Americans. There's that. So I'd say the same thing about Kamala. You know what I'm saying? She'll be the first female of color president, but that does not mean that she's only working and doing good things for women of color, right? It does not mean that she's only working and doing good things for people of color. No, she's the American president. So that means all Americans should be bettered by legislation that she pushes, right? So what's supposed to be going on up there? But that's the first thing people come with. You know what I'm saying? What has Kamala Harris done for black people? And then as soon as you give them something next time, well, she still ain't black, she's Indian. You know what I'm saying? Or she's Asian. Oh, whatever, man. You know what I'm saying? You just looking for a reason to not like the lady. Just say you don't like, you don't want to vote for a woman, or you don't want to vote for a black woman, or what, or you just looking to rebuff things. You know what I'm saying? You're just looking to be obtuse. Whatever. Some people just like to fight just to fight. You know what I'm saying? So there's some of that too. So I'm sick of that dumb stuff. Side note, before I even get into what she's actually done for black people, because there's a list of some things, and I ain't even got it all. I just got some stuff that I picked out that I thought was interesting. But anyway, before I even get into that, please do not fall for this propaganda of these black folk out here trying to tell you how now they're voting for Trump. Or you know what I'm saying? How they don't trust Kamala and all this, and they don't trust the Democrat and all that. Get that out of here. Get that. Now, is that true? Are there plenty of black people who feel this way? Yeah. But that's not these people who they have on these commercials. That's propaganda. What they're trying to do is make Trump look cool. You know, what they're trying to do is turn you on to that guy because he is floundering right now. He is poised to lose this thing. He's poised to lose it by a landslide. So they're getting desperate, you know? And I'd seen a reel, and they had this poll where they had these black people talking. It was like, oh, yeah, well, I'm voting for Trump, and I don't think Trump's a racist, and blah, 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 and all this other crap. And I said, the more and more that guy slips in the polls, the more and more you'll start to see garbage like this. And then the person answered, somebody, probably the person who, you know, generated this reel, answered my comment talking about, well, have you ever been polled? And I said, yes, I used to be a pollster. I did. I used to call people when it was the Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton election. I worked for a guy, and that's what we did. We would call people. We'd ask them a list of questions about different candidates. But the biggest one was, who are you more likely to vote for between Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton? Right? So, yeah, I've done that type of work before. And I tell you right now that these commercials and stuff that you see in it's biased BS. I'm sorry, because that is not the majority of black people's thinking right there. They just finding some Negroes who needed some money. Just like the people you see holding up blacks for Trump signs at a Trump rally behind Trump while he's speaking. Please do not think those blacks are really for Trump. Those are blacks who needed some money. Those are black people who needed some money. Period, point blank, baby. That's all that was. That's all that was. Because they are not for Trump. I promise you that. Excuse me. Hold on. Let me get my notes. Now I'm dropping on the floor while I'm laughing about that, man. I mean, really, man. This is America and still don't nothing move but the money. Them is black folk who needed some bread. They are not for Trump in real life. Anyway, moving on. What has Miss Harris done for black people? Let's talk about a few things that Kamala Harris has done for black people. Number one, First Step Act was to, and that's an act that was to reduce minimum sentencing for nonviolent drug offenses. That's huge. And that goes directly to poor black folk, right? Justice for Victims of Lynching Act, which aimed to make lynching a federal hate crime. I think that definitely goes towards black people. We're the ones who tend to get lynched the most. Anyway, moving on. Justice in Policing Act. Now, the woman was a prosecutor, right? Right? And people always come at her about that. Oh, she threw a lot of black people in jail. She threw a lot of brothers in jail. But she's also been a part of this Justice in Policing Act, which goes to ban chokeholds, right? Like the one that killed Eric Garner and countless other brothers and sisters. But these guys do it, and then they go home and eat breakfast and usually get money while there's an investigation of the murder. Anyway, she's looking to ban chokeholds, establish a national database of police misconduct, and end qualified immunity for law enforcement officers. That's huge right there, especially for black folk. That right there assures that there will be some accountability when they kill us in the streets like animals. She's doing that. She did that. Anyway, moving on. The Middle Class Act, a tax credit for low-income families. Come on now. Come on now. My brothers and sisters out there struggling. She trying to get a tax credit for low-income families, the Middle Class Act. Yeah. Rent Relief Act. This is one of my favorites. Aimed at providing rental assistance to families spending 30% of their income on rent. They said a lot of people out here are spending half of their income and 3/4 of their income on rent. This is legislation directly aimed at lowering that. That ain't helping black folk. That ain't directly aimed at black folk who's struggling out here to keep roofs and homes over their head, right? Last thing here I got, and this is just the last thing I got. She worked to secure funding for HBCUs. That's another thing that, you know what I'm saying, they always come try to come at black politicians about, have tried to come at her about. What are you going to do for HBCUs? She's been a part of securing funding for HBCUs. So those are some things right there that Kamala Harris has done for black people. Now you can pick any one of those, and there's some other stuff too. Go ahead and let your little fingers do the work. Go ahead and Google it, and you'll see a whole bunch of other stuff that she done did that directly impacts black people and black families. BIPOC, right? You know, black indigenous people of color. Some of this stuff positively affects that community. She's done it. Got to give her props, man. Give her props. I get peas where peas is due. I want to give props where props is due. So Miss Harris is walking the walk and talking the talk. She walk it like she talking. Walk it like she talking. So that's what's up. Now, do I love everything she's done? No. But guess what? There ain't no politician on the planet who I agree with 100%. That's just crazy. That ain't how this thing works. But I do think her and Mr. Walls are the best ticket for the future. They will get my vote in November. Let's hope they get yours. That's my time, ladies and gentlemen. You know what I'm saying? You've been watching Urban Politics. I want to thank you all for liking and subscribing as you do. Please, as soon as you have a chance, take your little cell phone over to YouTube, like and subscribe, phizzed music, Urban Politics, and as always, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to see you around like a donut.